Hello everyone, my name is Adeeba. I'm from Katihar Medical College and we will begin with part 6 of Plant Kingdom. By so far and so forth, we have completed algae. We have covered all the important points of algae, its economical importance, all the common algae which we would probably see, the importance of algae, and what role it actually plays as an ancestor. Because algae, green algae, is actually an ancestor of the land plants. So we have learned about the different terms as well, like terms of alternation of generation. Alternation of generation is a term which is very frequently used in whole of the plant kingdom. So we will use this term again in bryophyta and in pteridophytes as well, but begins from algae and it goes up to the angiosperms as well. So we will begin with bryophyta, which are non-vascular plants. We studied about two types of plants, one which were vascular and one which were non-vascular. And in the non-vascular plants, we had first one was the algae and the second one was bryophyta. After that, the vascular plants start. So the topic is bryophyta. Bryophyta, bryos is moss and phyton is plant. So bryophyta is a Greek derived term which is made up of two terms, bryos and phyton. Bryos is moss and phyton is plant. Bryophytes are the first terrestrial and non-vascular plants found in moist and shady places. In order to be a terrestrial plant, the first and the foremost thing which is required is water. Plants need water because they have to perform photosynthesis, they have to perform respiration, they have to do all those vital processes in which they would survive. But if we see that bryophytes are lacking vascular system, in order to absorb water from the soil, the important thing is the presence of vascular system. But in bryophytes, the vascular system is absent. So how these plants survived without the vascular system is the main thing which we will study in bryophyta, that how algae actually evolved. Some plants of algae actually evolved into bryophyta without a vascular system, and then vascular system evolved in pteridophytes, which later on the spreading around even in the barren areas occur. So bryophytes are the first terrestrial plants. They're also called the amphibians of the plant kingdom, and they are non-vascular plants because of the absence of vasculature. What are the two vasculatures which are present in the plant? The first one is xylem and phloem. So these two are absent and thus they are called as non-vascular. Found in moist and shady places. Why moist and shady places are actually chosen by bryophyta? Because in moist and shady places they do not they do not need that amount of water because of because of transpiration. They would only require a minimum amount of water in order to perform their vital functions. And secondly, they chose moist land or near the land which has water in it because it will help. These things will help them to absorb the water and thus their survival. So they form a kind of green mat. They These bryophytes also form a green mat like algae. Algae they also used to form a greenish mat over either water or on the surface of the rocks or on the surface of the plant. On damp soil, rocks, walls, on the banks of ponds and on the bark of trees, especially during the rainy season. So they are actually brothers of algae. They are also forming a green mat on damp soil. They are also forming a greenish mat on the rocks, walls, and on the banks of ponds, and even on the bark of trees, especially during the rainy season. So the term bryophyta was coined by Braun, and it was delimited in their present form by Schimper. The science dealing with bryophytes is termed as bryology. So there is a different portion of science which is dealing with only and only bryophytes, and that branch is termed as bryology. So, general characters of bryophyte. The plant body is gametophyte, haploid, same as in algae. We will see that slowly and gradually in algae, in bryophyte, and then in pteridophyte, we see that the plant body is usually haploid. But later on, when there is evolution, when the plants evolved in the vascular plants, in the seeded plants, naked seeded plants that are gymnosperms and angiosperms, which are the fruit bearing plants. Slowly and gradually, the haploid body will get converted into diploid body. These small plants have haploid body as their main plant body, but the plants which are more evolved, like angiosperms and gymnosperms, they would have diploid plant body as their main body. So there is a descent, like there is transversion of the main plant body in a haploid condition to a diploid condition as we move from the lower plants to the higher plants. So the main plant body is gametophyte. It is green in color and is either thalloid, like in liverbirds. Liverbirds are thalloid structure, which look something like this. They resemble liver, so that is why they are called as liverbirds, or differentiated into stem-like and leaf-like structures and rhizoids. So liverbirds, either they are thalloid or they can be differentiated into leaf-like or stem-like structure. We are not using the term stem and leaf because there is absence of differentiation in the thallo-like structure. They are just an aggregate of cells performing similar function. Second, they are small sized land plants. So these are very small sized land plants. The smallest is Zooxis argentea, which is 4.5 millimeter, and the largest is Lawsonia and Pontalis, about 60 centimeter to 70 centimeter long. This means that these plants, these bryophytes, are very small plants. The smallest is Zooxis, and even the largest plant is only 60 to 70 centimeter long and not more than that. Whereas we have studied in the algae that kelps they form massive plant bodies. They are very large, very huge. So this means that the bryophytes, they are very small, the smallest plants in whole of the kingdom. Now, these plants remain attached to the substratum by a unicellular rhizoid. So if root-like structure, rhizoids are root-like structure which help in the attachment of the thallus to the substratum. So if there is rhizoid, if there is presence of rhizoid, it will be unicellular. They also serve for the absorption of water and minerals from the soil. As I've said, the rhizoids, they act like roots, so they would help in the absorption of water and minerals from the soil. For bryophytes lack vascular tissues but have simple conducting strands. So these plants, they lack vascular tissues, xylem and phloem, they are lacking it, but there is a presence of simple conducting strands. Just some strands are present without any differentiation. We have seen that there are different structures of xylem and phloem, but in this, the bryophytes, they lack. They just have a presence of a single conducting strand. Sexual reproduction is of oogamous type. The male sex organs are called antheridia, and the female sex organ is archegonia. And oogamous is what type of a reproduction? Oogamous is a type of reproduction in which the male gamete is always going to be small and motile, whereas the female gamete, it will always be large and non-motile. Oogamous, it is a type of reproduction in which male gamete is small and motile, whereas female gamete is large and immotile. We can see the sex organs of bryophytes, antheridium and antherozoids. Antheridium is a structure which will give rise to antherozoids, and archegonium will give rise to eggs. So, in the structure, we know that how anther looks like. Anther sometimes looks like this. There is a stalk and there is an anther. So, there are androcytes. Androcytes, the small cells which are present. There is a coat which is termed as jacket, and there is a stalk. By stalk, the antherozoid remains attached to the remains with the help of a stalk. The antherozoid is going to remain attached to the plant body or even a flower in case of angiosperms because they're flower bearing. So the antheridium which is present in them, the stalk helps in the attachment of the anther to the plant body. So androcytes will give rise to antherozoids, whereas in archegonium, the egg will be formed. So there are some cover cells which are present on the surface of the archegonium, whereas the neck cells, these are present in between the neck cells, the neck canal cells, which will form a canal, the venter canal cells, and there is a venter, and inside it there is the presence of egg. Okay, so this is the basic structure of an archegonium. Now, each antheridium is stalked and clutch shaped. So it is stalked. There is a presence of stalk and shapes like a club shape. It produces male gametes that are biflagellated antherozoids. Okay, so there is production of antherozoids which are biflagellated, whereas each archegonium is flask-shaped body consisting of a lower venter, which is a swollen part. So this is a lower venter, this swollen part. Then venter has a female gamete called as egg cell. We have seen that inside the venter there was the presence of an egg cell. Fertilization takes place in the presence of water. So these bryophytes depend on water for their fertilization, either of rain or of dew. By any means, either by the help of rain or by the help of dew, they depend on their water for their fertilization. Antherozoids swim in water and move to the archegonium to fertilize the egg. So these antherozoids, because they have biflagella, two flagella are present. With the help of it is going to swim in water and it will reach the ovum, the archegonium, inside which the fertilization will take place. Now, zygote develops into diploid sporophyte. Zygote, it will very obviously be a diploid sporophyte. It is a parasite on gametophyte and consists of foot, seta, and capsule. When zooid fuses with egg, which is present inside the zygote is produced. You know that these two are N, zygote is produced, zygote is 2N, and it is a sporophyte. Now, this sporophyte is actually a parasite on the plant body, and it bears structure like this. So, it has a foot, seta, and capsule. Okay. Now, the spores which are produced are haploid. Inside this capsule, spores are produced and these are haploid, which on liberation they germinate to form haploid gametophyte. This is called protoneme, which give rise to a new plant. Now these spores, when they germinate, they give rise to protonema. Protonema is actually a stage which is before the formation of a new plant body. It is a small stage and after which new haploid plant body develops, by the help of which a new haploid plant body will develop. So, the life cycle represents the alternation between haploid gametophytic and diploid sporophytic generations. We have seen that antherozoid and egg, which were haploid, when they fuse, they give rise to a formation of zygote, which was diploid. Now, this diploid plant body will develop into a parasite, which will have a foot, a seta, and a capsule. Now, these two bodies will have 2N and 2N. So, there is alternation of a generation that first the generation was N haploid and then it becomes 2N and then it again becomes N. So, this parasite is actually this parasite bears a foot, a seta, and a capsule. Inside the capsule, there are production of spores. The spores are N. The spores are produced by the help of meiosis, which will result in the reduced number, that is N. Now, this N, these spores will germinate and form a protonema. A protonema stage is produced later on, which gets converted into a new haploid plant body. Up till now, we have seen that the bryophyta, they are the non-vascular plants, first of all, and second of all, they are the first terrestrial plants, and they are called the reptiles of the plant kingdom. Okay, they are also similar to the algae because they also form a mat. They form a mat on the surface of rocks, on the surface of the trees, on the walls. They are very small plants, which may be of even like 4.5 mm to even the largest of them, like Dawsonia and Fontalis. They were 60 centimeter to 70 centimeter and not more than that. They have their plant body, which is gametophytic plant body, haploid, and this gametophytic plant body give rise to gamete. Now, these plants, they have a thallo-like structure, which will be having the root-like, stem-like, and leaf-like structure. Now, bryophytes lack vascular tissues. We know they are non-vascular plants, but they have a simple conducting system present in them, which will help the body to stand. Bryophytes are actually those plants which were the first plant to stand erect. They were trying to stand erect, and because of which they had a simple conducting system which would help water to reach even the topmost part of the plant. Now, the sexual reproduction is of oogamous type, we all know. This male sex organ is called as antheridia. We have seen the structure of antheridia. Antheridia has a stalk and capsule-like structure inside which androcytes are present and which will give rise to production of antherozoids. Now, these antherozoids are biflagellated and with the help of which they are going to swim in water and reach the surface of the archegonium and then enter into this canal and reach egg, which will give rise to fertilization and result in fertilization. The female sex organ, which is archegonium, we've seen that there are two parts of it. The first one is cover cell, and the upper venter is thin, and the lower venter it is swollen part, which has egg in it. Now, the life cycle of it represents the alternation of generation. The first one is antherozoid, and egg give rise to production of zygote, which is 2N, and which later on produces protonema by the help of spore, which is again N, and give rise to the main plant body. Now, moving on to the economic importance of bryophytes. Economic importance of bryophytes. Now, peat. There are few of the plants such as sphagnum, liverworts, hornworts, and mosses. And in these plants, there are many fodder-like plants which are present. They are very important economically as well as ecologically. So, peat, sphagnum grows in a semi-aquatic or submerged conditions in acidic marshes with where there is least decay. So sphagnum, it is a plant of a bryophyte which grows in a semi-aquatic or submerged conditions in acidic marshes where there is marshy area. Wherever there is marshy area, the the sphagnum grows and the decay is delayed. The older dead parts of this moss and the other marshy plants are carbonized, compressed, and fossilized over the thousands of years to produce a dark, spongy mass called peat. So, when this, this sphagnum grows in marshy area where there is like half water and half plant, marshy area, it grows there. When it grows there, sometimes the dead parts of the mosses they are covered by more of dirt, more of the land, which will result in carbonization or compression and fossilization of the this moss. Whenever this happens, a peat is produced, which is a fossil form of mosses, which is sphagnum. So peat is dried, compressed, and cut into pieces and used as a fuel. And this peat is actually used as a fuel. It is mixed in sand and soil to improve its water holding capacity and as a source of organic matter. Peat is distilled and fermented to yield many chemicals. So, a fossilized form of sphagnum, which is called as peat, it has innumerous uses. One of it is that it is dried and compressed and cut into pieces and then it is used as a fuel because it is a very good fuel. Peat is a very good fuel when used. The second of it is that it helps in when it is mixed in sand, it helps to improve the water holding capacity of the sand. And the third is that this can be distilled and fermented and then the extraction of many important chemicals can be done by it. So the first economic importance of the bryophytes is the formation of peat. Second, in nursery and transportation, sphagnum is commonly called as bog moss or peat moss. It can absorb large amounts of water, up to 18 times its weight. It is used to keep moist the cut parts during the transportation and propagation in a nursery. So, when in a nursery, in a nursery, we know that usually vegetative kind of reproduction is done. In vegetative kind of reproduction, the part of a plant, the part of a plant is cut and then it is sown somewhere else in the soil. When in nursery, this thing happens and we have to transport that part of a plant to some other place or to some other nursery. We use sphagnum because sphagnum has a large water holding capacity. This water holding capacity of it is used in transportation of the plant parts to nursery and even in transportation because it will not dry the plant out. It will not dry that part of a plant out and help in its survival until and unless it reaches to its desired place. Third, mosses constitute food for many small animals such as birds and grouse chicken, feed on capsule of bryum and polytrichum. So it can also act as a food source for many of the animals such as birds and chicken, which feed on the which feed on the capsules of bryum and polytrichum. Fourth, medicinal use. Mercantia and polymorpha is used to cure liver and lung infections. It is very important. There are two most of the important functions which are performed by bryophytes. First one is that it helps in transportation of the plant parts. Second is it helps in peat formation, and third is that it is a very important plant for its medicinal use. In Ayurveda, there are many plants, there are many bryophytes which are being used as medicines. So, Mercantia and Polymorpha, these are used to cure liver and lung infections. Now, distillate of Sagnol is used to cure skin infections. Dicotin of Polytrichum commune is believed to resolve kidney and gallbladder stones. So this shows that how important bryophyta is when in terms of a medic in terms of a medicinal use. During the Second World War, sphagnum was used as an antiseptic in a surgical dressing. So there are three important functions. First one is peat. Second one is in transportation. It is used in transportation, and the third is used as a medicinal plant. Bryophytes have a lot of medicinal plants which are used in Ayurveda. There is a separate study of it in Ayurveda where are we using plants. So Mercantia, Polymorpha, these are used to cure liver and lung infections. Distillate of Spagnol is used to cure skin infections, whereas decoction of polytrichum commune is believed to resolve kidney and gallbladder stones. During the Second World War, sphagnum was used as an antiseptic in surgical dressings. Fifth, the ecological importance. Up till now, we have seen the economical importance. How is it improving in terms of money? How is it helping in terms of money economy of it? Now, the ecological importance, mosses along with lichens, they are the first organism to colonize rocks and hence are of the great ecological importance. The mosses along with lichens is the lichen arises from the symbiotic association between algae and fungus, and when algae and fungus combine with the bryophyta, they form mosses. Now, mosses, along with lichens, these are the first organisms to colonize rock and hence they are the great ecological importance. And why colonization of rock is important? Then the barren rock is colonized by these mosses. Whenever there is colonization of mosses with the lichens, what happens is that these plants are actually going to break down the rocks into minute particles by their rhizoid-like structures, and this barren rock will get converted into a suitable fertilized area, which will help in the growth of other plants. Will the succession will take place. First, there is colonization by lichens, then by with lichen and mosses, and then it may give rise to bryophytes, then pteridophytes, then gymnosperm, and then angiosperm, which will help in the ecological succession of that barren land. Now, they decompose rocks, making the substrate suitable for the growth of higher plants. So, it will help in the growth of higher plants, as I've explained. Soil conservation. Mosses form dense mat on the soil which prevent soil erosion. What is soil erosion? Whenever in the hilly areas we've seen that when the whenever it rains, what happens is if if we see in a hilly area when water falls, the soil which is actually fertile will move. It will move and it may even leave the whole mountain barren. But the presence of bryophytes, because these are very small plants, they are going to remain attached to the substratum, and whenever water falls, what they form a dense mat over which the water goes through and it remains the soil under which remains untouched, or even if touched, the part of it is not the part of it doesn't flow away with the flow of water. So it will prevent the soil, the fertile soil, to wash out, leaving the whole mountain barren. So helps in soil conservation as well. Now the classification of bryophyta. Bryophyta, they are divided into liverworts, hornworts, and mosses. Liverworts, hornworts, and mosses. These are divided into liverworts, hornworts, and mosses. Now the first one is liverworts, which is called as Hepaticopsida. Why is it called as Hepaticopsida or liverwort? The word hepatic or hepar, it is derived from the liver. Hepatic is a term which is another term which is used for liver. So liverworts, because they have a shape which looks like a liver. Their shape, their plant body, their thallus actually looks like something like liver. That is why they are termed as liverworts or hepaticopes. Liverworts grow usually in moist shady habitats such as marshy grounds, damp soil, bark of trees, and deep in woods. All the bryophytes, their chosen land is marshy, damp soil, bark of trees, deep in woods, or shady areas. Markantia is the most common example of liverwort. The vegetative plant body is a dorso-ventrally flattened and dichotomously branched thallus. What is dorso-ventrally flattened? Dorso-ventrally flattened means that the dorsal part as well as the ventral part of the body is flattened. The anterior portion as well as the posterior portion is flattened. You can see in this portion that the anterior as well as the posterior, both the parts are flattened and dichotomously branched. That means it is branched thallus, a thala-like structure. There is no differentiation between root, stem, and leaf. So is Mercantia is the most common example of liverwort, first of all, and second of all, the body is dorsoventrally flattened. It is a flat kind of a structure, which is a dichotomously branched thallus. The leafy members, if there is the presence of leaves, the leafy members will have tiny leaf-like appendages in two rows on the stem-like structure. So there might some plants might bear leaves. So there is a stem-like structure and there are two rows in which the leaves are borne. Each cell has many chloroplasts but no pyramid. So there is no storage body present, but yes, there is presence of chloroplast which may be many in number, not only single but many in number. Asexual reproduction occurs by fragmentation of thallus or by the formation of gametes, by the formation of gamma. So asexual reproduction can be by the fragmentation of thallus. If a fragment of the thala breaks down and it might be transported to some other part, the plant body will grow. Second, by the formation of gamma. Now, there on the surface of the liverwort, there is a cup-like structure which is present, which is called as a gamma cup. So they are called as gamma. Now, gamma are green, multicellular, asexual buds which develop in gamma cups located on thallus. So there On the thallus, there is a presence of gamma cup inside which gamma are present. Now, these gamma, when they germinate, the asexual reproduction takes place. Gamma, on getting detached, germinate into new gametophyte. There is no alternation of generation because they are produced itself from the haploid plant body. They will be haploid, the gamma will be haploid, and it will give rise to a gametophytic plant body, which is the main plant body of the bryophyte. During sexual reproduction, male and female sex organ develop on the same or on different thalli. They, they may develop on the same plant. Maybe the male and the female might develop on the same thala, or it might be on the different thala as well. The male antheridia are born on antheroidophores. They produce flagellate antherozoids or sperm. So the male antheridia they are born on antheridiophores, and they will give rise to production of antherozoids or sperm. Now these sperms will be flagellate. They have flagella in them. Female sex organs or archegonia are born on archegoniophores. The egg is enclosed inside the venter. We have seen the diagram of a there is a venter. There is a venter, lower venter, which is present inside which the egg was placed. Now the sporophyte is differentiated into foot, seta, and capsule. We have seen that when the sperm and the egg fuses, it will give rise to production of zygote. This zygote will be sporophytic. It will give rise to production of sporophytic plant body, which is a parasite in nature and bearing foot seta and capsule. Inside these capsules, the haploid spores will be produced, which will give rise to production of a new plant body. The spores are haploid and germinate into free-living gametophytes. Examples are Vixia, Marcantia, Porella, and Pelia, etc. So, the spores that are haploid and when they germinate, it will give rise to a free-living gametophytic plant body, and the examples of which are Vixia, Marcantia. So, these are the examples of liverworts. These are the example of liverworts. Hornworts. Hornworts are antheropsid. These are the gametophyte is flat and dorsiventral as in liverworts, and the sporophyte is long horn-like. Therefore, it is called as horned liverworts. So, hornworts, in them, the gametophyte is dorsoventrally flat, such as in liverworts, but the sporophyte which is produced, it is horn-like, and which is the main reason why they are termed as horned liverworts. The capsule is long, having meristematic zone at the base. In them, foot, seta, and capsule, the normal structure of the part produced, the sporophytic plant, which is produced by the fusion of the male and the female gamete. But in them, they have a long meristematic zone at the base, which means there is a long meristematic base in the capsule, which is why they look like horn. They have a horn-like structure and they are called as hornworts. And the example of which are antheros, antheroceros. The third is mosses, bryopsida. Now, mosses are small size from 3 centimeter to 12 centimeter long, foliose bryophyte. The rhizoids are multicellular and branched with oblique septa. So the rhizoids, they are multicellular. We have seen that usually in bryophytes, if rhizoids is present, it is unicellular, but in the mosses, it is multicellular and branched with an oblique septa. The predominant stage in the life cycle of a moss is gametophyte, which consists of two stages, the protonema stage and the leafy stage. So, the predominant stage in all the bryophytes is gametophytic stage, but in case of a mosses, it consists of two stages. One is protonema stage and the other one is leafy stage. Now, the leafy stage develops from the secondary protonema as the lateral, but this protonema will give rise to secondary protonema, and when the secondary protonema will give rise to lateral buds, the leafy stage will be produced. It consists of upright, slender axis bearing spirally arranged leaves. So, There is an upright slender axis and spiral arrangement of leaves is seen in case of the leafy stage of the mosses, which are bryophytes. In the diagram, in the bryophytes, liverworts, marcantia, we- I've told you that it looks something like liver. The diagram, it resembles liver. The gamma cup are present, gamma cup, which will give rise to production of gametes, which helps in the vegetative reproduction. And the liverworts, they had either the male and the female parts on the same plant or it may be present on the different plant. In case, in the case of Mercantia, we can see there is different male and female thallus, archegonia 4, on top of which archegonium is present, uh, inside which the egg is present, and antheridio 4, which will be a antheridia, which will give rise to antherozoids or sperms. The second example is of mosses. The mosses, they have a gametophytic and the sporophytic plant body, which is a parasite. So the parasite will have foot we will not be able to see, but seta and a capsule. This is a sporophytic plant body, whereas the gametophytic plant body had two stages, the protonema stage and the leafy stage. The protonema stage is a small stage, whereas the leafy stage will have leaves which are spirally arranged. So in this case, the leaves are spirally arranged. And this is an example of funaria. Whereas sphagnum, this is the diagram of sphagnum. It has many branches in which the leaves are spirally arranged. The vegetative reproduction is by fragmentation and budding in the secondary protonema. The vegetative reproduction, it will see by the help of fragmentation and budding in the secondary protonema. The sex organs are antheridia and archegonia, found at the apex of leafy shoot. These are the leafy shoot on which at the apex there is presence of antheridia and archegonia. The zygote develops into a diploid sporophyte consisting of podseta and capsule. The haploid spores are formed inside the capsule after meiosis. They grow into protonema, and later on this protonema will give rise to the gametophytic plant body. The examples of mosses are Funaria, Polytrichum, and Sphagnum. We have seen all the three types of bryophytes. The first one was liverworts, which has the structure which is similar to a liver, and where they usually used to grow in moist shady habitats such as marshy grounds, and Marcantia is the most common example of it. The body is dorso-ventrally flattened, whereas the leafy members have tiny leaf-like appendages in two rows on the stem-like structure. If they are a leafy member, the second is that they have many chloroplasts, but the storage form, the pyrenoids, is absent. Now, they have a special structure present in them, that is a gamma. Gamma cups are present inside which gamma are produced. They help in the vegetative reproduction of the plant. Hornworts, these are the gametophytes. In them, the gametophytic plant is flat, whereas the sporophytic, it is erect, okay, which have a horn-like structure, due to which they are termed as horned liverworts. So if someone asks a question that what plants are horned liverworts, we would say that these are Anthoceropsida or hornworts. The third is mosses or Bryopsida. These are small sized from 3 to 12 centimeter long bryophytes. The rhizoids in them are multicellular, branched with oblique septa. The predominant state, which is the gametophytic stage, it has two stages in them. It can be a protonema stage and it can be a leafy stage. So the leafy stage, it develops from the secondary protonema. There's a primary protonema and then a secondary protonema is found from which the leafy stage is produced. And the leaves, they are spirally arranged. They're spirally arranged, and on the branches on which leaves are borne, on the end of it, the sex organs are present, which are antheridia and archaea at the apex of the leafy shoots. Now, the zygote, which develops into a diploid sporophyte. It consists of a foot zeta and capsule, which is a parasite born on the gam- main gametophytic plant body. And haploid spores are formed inside the capsule after meiosis, and they grow into a protonema. We have completed bryophytes with the three types of bryophytes, which are liverworts, hornworts, and mosses. Thank you so much.